What's up guys? Today I have a new video that's going to go over the tips and tricks for Square-1 if you've already got down how to solve it. So most of these tips are going to be shortcuts or just some helpful things to remember when you're solving to get your times down. So let's get started with cube shape. So most of this is covered in my cube shape video, but obviously the best ways to get back to cube shape are doing a double scallop or doing a scallop kite. So in this case, for instance, we have kind of an interesting case here. What I would recommend is, because we have this 1L, we just start matching up pairs, that, and then we put another pair down here, like that. And then this always allows us to make a line, which we can pair up with this pair to make a kite and a scallop here. So honestly, I would say that scallop kite is going to be the most common shape that we have to use to get back to cube shape. So doing whatever you have to do to line that L up with a 4 in a row scallop like that, 4 edges in a row. My only other definitive tip for cube shape, because cube shape is covered quite extensively in my video, is that anytime you see an even amount of L's, so like we have an L here and we have an L here, always just pair them up, usually into a kite, sometimes into a square, depending on the cube shape. But like in this instance, we realize that if we cut this, we'll have a scallop with a kite. So we'll just line up these L's next to each other to form a kite, and then we can do our scallop kite case. When it comes to our next step, which is CO, there's again not too much to improve on per se. I would always just say, remember you have to go straight into an offset, so always just throw an offset in there when you get to this step. And when you have this case here, when you have the diagonal and the line, I mean, you're automatically just going to kick one out. And then this is the case I would get really good at and familiar with here. When you have an L and an L, what you just want to do is get this one to this bottom left spot as fast as you can, and then get this to the top right, and then you just do not an alg, but that move in order to quickly get our corners oriented there. Okay, so when it comes to EO, there's a few things that we can improve. The first thing is just practice the one-to-one algorithm a lot. So the one where we have this one on the right and then one on the back here. And I wanted to run through my finger trick that I use for it so that you can kind of get an idea. Because I got this new Square-1, it actually works a lot better on this one than it would on my old one. So it might be kind of tough if you don't have a pretty good Square-1, but here's what I would do. So just throw that offset in, move that, kind of push that like that across, move it down, and we just do that 1-1 move. I slide this back and the top, down, come across, and then back up. So just like that for one-to-one. Additionally, I just wanted to cover the specific algorithms for two of the cases that you see during EO. It's additional algorithms, but they're really similar to the one-to-one alg, so I just wanted to go over them. So the first one's going to be if we have an L here, with a line on the bottom, and we're going to arrange it like that, where we have L in the upper left, line in the bottom, and the algorithm is going to go 1,0 slash 3,0 slash 3,0 slash -1 -1 slash -2 1 slash -4 -1 slash. And that's kind of an easier way to fix that L line case. The other case is going to be the TT. So we have a T on the bottom there, and you just want to make sure that the side that doesn't have the extra edge is on the left here on both sides. And the algorithm for this one is going to be 0 -1 slash 3 slash 3 slash -1 -1 slash -3 slash -3. And again, just to reiterate the finger tricks on this alg, because it's a pretty good alg for that, I'm just going to show you what I would do. So just like that, there, that, back with the other finger, and back like that, in case you're curious on how to speed up that alg. Alright, so CP is actually where we probably see the most spots where we get to make up some ground and preserve some edges and whatnot. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was recognizing when you have headlights without actually looking around the cube. So here we look here and we see that we have opposites. So green and blue are opposites and the red and orange are opposites. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look what's on the right side. If these are both opposites as well, so if these were opposites, then we would know that we have a diagonal swap on the bottom and we're not going to have any headlights on the bottom. So we can see we do have headlights here, so that means that these aren't opposites, right? So we would know that without turning it all the way around though. So we know that If this is opposite, this isn't opposite, the next thing that we're going to hit is going to be headlights, so we don't have to turn it all the way around. And we can see the same thing here, because these were opposites, these are not opposites, we know that this is going to be headlights as well. So that's a little bit of a tip, so that you'd only have to go like that. You can see you're going to have headlights on the back, and then you could just go into your alg like that. Okay, so this next part is the really important step for Square-1 solving, and it's creating blocks, right? So this is our example here. We're in CP, right? So we're going to look around. We would see that we have headlights on the back. So the normal algorithm would be to put them both on the back, and then we would swap these two to fix it. What we notice here is we actually will be breaking up this block that's already formed, and we can kind of look around the top here, and we'll notice that we're going to be breaking that block there as well, and then the same over here. So the idea behind this step is going to be, because all CP algorithms are 3 -3 moves, what we can do is we can actually just misalign sometimes, and we could do the same alg like that, and it will actually solve it, rather than if we had just done the alg with ignoring these blocks, we would get an EP case that looks like this, which is going to take 2 more adj moves than if we had just offset it by 1 and then done the algorithm. So let's look at another example of blocking here, where we have this here. So let's take a look. We have opposites, and then we have opposites again, which means that we're going to have no headlights on the top or the bottom. And if we were just to do, and this is a diagonal swap on the top and the bottom, so if we were just to do our normal algorithm, we're going to get this somewhat nasty case here where we have H-perm on the top and the bottom, right? And we want something a little easier than that. So what we can do is, because we see blocks here, and we know that we have a block that looks the same on the left side and on the right side here, if we return it, we can offset this as such and like that. And then we can do our normal algorithm for a double diagonal swap, and that will preserve those blocks for EP, allowing us to solve without having to deal with that H-perm. So here's actually a really good example that I would use to explain my thought process on for what I'm looking at here. So the first thing to decide is what type of CP case this is. So if we're turning here, you notice that we have double headlights, so that's going to go in the back, right? And we need this swap here. So I'm going to look at the top really quick. I looked at the left side, there's no blocks there. There is a good block configuration here, so doing the algorithm right now here would be the better move. And if I look over here, I'm actually going to break this one. So this is what we call there's no winning situation, I guess. It's not a win-win. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter for our EP whether we do an offset version of it, because if we did the offset version, then that keeps this block, but if we do the normal version, it's going to keep this block. So if you see that you have a continuous corner like this, it doesn't really matter if you offset on the top or the bottom. Now let's look at the bottom layer. So here, this is the configuration we would want to be in. Let's turn it. This is also the configuration you want to be in. As soon as you have two sides that look like they would be good, either by offsetting or by doing it the normal way, then you're fine to just go ahead and do it. So the conclusion we come to here is we can do the alg like this, or we can do it offset like this. It's not going to make too much of a difference, so we'll just do our normal alg, and we wouldn't get a worse EP case as a result. So sometimes you'll see blocks, but they'll cancel each other out because one will be good and one won't be, and that's just how it goes. Another way you'll see it sometimes is where you'll have a block on the left like this on these back two, and then you'll also have the same block on these back right two. And in that case, you could just do it like normal if it helps you. But I would recommend practicing the CP algs with an offset on the top, offset on the bottom, and then both offset, because it'll actually help your times out a lot. All right, so for the final step being EP, I have a few tips for this as well. My first thing would be is just recognition is going to be the most important part for EP. So like here, something I would say is if you have a really nasty case where you have no lines top or bottom, what I like to do is I just throw an M2, U2, M2 move in, and usually that's going to solve something for you. In this case, a lot of times it'll be a W, which is what we have here, right? So then that kind of leads me to my next tip, where we want to reduce everything to adj algs, right? So in this case, we have a U on top where we need to rotate these three like that, and we have a U on the bottom where we need to rotate like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the pair here on the right that needs to adj swap, and this pair on the right needs to adj swap. I'm going to do my alg, and then I'm going to be left with just two adj pairs, just like that. So the idea is that if you're using the edge alg, the amount of swaps you're going to have to do is going to be the same for a single U on top, a double U where you have a U on top and the bottom. It'll be the same. So it's always better to just use edge algs. If you use that M2 U2 M2 and you still have a case like that, then you could just go right into those edge algs there. The next step I want to bring up is ways to get around the parity alg, especially the long parity alg, the adjacent alg. So this is a really common case that you see just by happenstance. We have a U perm on top, so we need to switch 3, so it would be 2 edge swaps, and then we have a single edge swap on the bottom. So as soon as we see this, we should realize that we have parity. What I would recommend doing here is figure out which way the U needs to go. So it needs to go this way, and then we're going to jump into the O perm for the way that goes opposite. So we want the O perm that moves this way. So the clockwise O perm so that these rotate, but when we're in the alg, we want to rotate that U the opposite way that we're trying to rotate. That's just how O perm works. Right. And when we do that, the way that it rotates it, it'll give us just one edge here and then one edge here. So that's the best way to solve that case without learning the full alg for U edge. All right, so this tip here involves involving the bar flip as part of your algorithm and just kind of using it as part of the alg. So here we have an edge case. So I want to think about how I can do edge while also flipping this bar in the middle of the alg or at the end of the alg without having to do extra moves. So what I usually do when I have this is I just go about my alg like this. And at this step right here, you do that move and then you bring it around again an extra time so that we're not having to do this whole thing at the end, because in terms of speed solving, that actually takes a significant amount of time. So it's a lot easier if we just involve in the middle of our alg like that. All right, so the last tip I'm going to do for EP, at least for this video, is going to be if you see that you have edge parity on the bottom like this. There's actually a simpler way to do it that involves not flipping and then reflipping. So if you see this, what you're going to do is have it on the right and on the back. You're going to offset this by 1 and just move it to the top like this. So now you're swapping just these two, and you're just going to do your edge parity alg. Okay. And then once you do it, you can just do this 2 move here on the bottom and then just slide it up. And then, so that's a good way to get around flipping like that. All right, guys, so that's all the tips I have for this first video. I've seen videos of Square-1 tips that have like up to 100 tips in them. And these are just the ones that I find practical to use, and I use pretty much every solve. The thing I'd emphasize the most is the blocks, because that can actually cut down on your EP times a lot, which is usually about 1/3 to half of the solve, depending on the case. Like EP can be pretty brutal. So practice those blocks if you can with those CP algs, and maybe I'll make another tip video at some point for Square-1, but this is as much as I wanted to cover for now. So hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.